Blocksters, welcome to the Blockchain Hustler, a show where we talk to the leading founders, creators, celebrities, and disruptors who are hustling in Web3. Today's guest is Nihar Neelakanti. Nihar is the CEO of Ecosapiens, the world's first carbon-backed NFT. He has spent 6 years in venture capital and was previously on the team at Menlo Ventures, where he co-developed the firm's climate thesis that led him to fall in love with climate tech. His passion is finding the alignment between consumer interests and helping the planet, which is why he's building a Web3 NFT platform to enable consumer action against climate change. Nihar, thank you so much for joining us on the Blockchain Hustler today.
Thanks for having me, Kaylee, and awesome show. Happy to be on.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you. Thank you so much for taking the time. And just diving into this project, I love this project, how it's intersecting crypto, climate, consumer. So the Ecosapien NFT, let's dive into this. It's the product number one of your long-term vision to build the Ecoverse. Can you first just tell me what an Ecosapien is and how the NFT works?
Yeah, so the Ecosapien is a truly like first of its kind carbon-backed NFT, where when you buy the actual NFT, the digital art, which is an Ecosapien, you're also receiving carbon credits that are carbon removal based, attached to like reforestation, kelpistry, or other kind of regenerative activities. So when you buy an Ecosapien, quite literally, not only is it a symbol of that impact, but you actually are making the world, better. You're sequestering carbon. The unique thing is that because carbon is a real commodity, it's a fintech product. We can actually claim that this NFT can never go to $0 because the carbon itself is always fungible. And it actually appreciates over time in value. And so even without kind of like the, speculative nature of, crypto, our NFT actually has a fundamental value to it, and whatever people want to, trade it for later, it could be different. So yeah, that's the NFT, and it offsets your whole year. Like the typical American emits 13 tons of carbon and ours comes with 20. And then over time, we're calling this the own and evolve model, or impact to earn, whatever you want to call it, where with your Ecosapien, over time, we can introduce events where you can evolve your character to become increasingly more rare, the more carbon you sequester through our platform. And so in that way, it's kind of like, it's not just digital art, it's more like Pokemon as well, because you can evolve your character and that makes it increasingly more rare. And so this is our way of continuing to tie like impacts with rarity with virtue signal, with symbolism. So this, we think, is just like an acquisition strategy to building the world's largest climate community. I'm not an activist myself, and I think our community, we like to say that we're pragmatic optimists, but I think there's millions of people, billions of people around the world that really care about the planet and are looking for ways to do more, but frankly need an easier way, and they need to be part of a community. And that's really what we've been trying to prove. And, with that kind of core community of climate focused people or sustainable focused people, we think we can build a number of other products around this thing, like an eco credit card, for example, that diverts your points into carbon, for example. We think we can create a philanthropic fund DAO that enables anyone from within their home to one-click easy, drive capital towards like beach cleanups or other kind of environmental projects, or even charities or investments. There's a lot we could do. Our roadmap has like 6 or 7 different products, and we wouldn't be doing this thing also if we didn't believe that those could each be billion-dollar companies. So, and that's what we call the Ecoverse, right? It's basically a platform that enables Homo sapiens to become Ecosapiens. And that's why we called it that.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. There's so much to dive into. I do want to ask, so each Ecosapien NFT, and I read this in your white paper, is backed by 20 metric tons of tokenized CO2, which is the equivalent to offsetting, like you said, a year's worth of the average American's carbon output. Can you just explain how the Ecosapien NFT works as an actual vehicle for carbon reduction?
Yeah, so we actually partnered up directly with carbon suppliers. So the reality is, Kaylee, is you and I can go buy a bunch of land, for example, off the Sierra Nevada hills in California, and reforest it. And so long as we can measure, verify, report that there has been carbon sequestered, and there's a bunch of companies that do this very scalably, by the way. It's software based. We can actually get issued carbon credits, right, for preserving the land and actually regenerating it. And you actually have to find a buyer on the other end to buy that credit, right? And so what we're doing is actually matching those projects, people out there that are reforesting the land or growing, marine-based kelp that sequesters carbon, in perpetuity. And we're matching them with buyers, aka the NFT owner, right? And once again, this is like a financial commodity, so it actually has fundamental value and it's appreciates over time. So when you buy it, quite literally, what you're doing is you're directing your dollars from the NFT towards someone that's reforesting or doing something positive for the planet.
Incredible. Can you go into some of those projects that are helping the planet?
So I believe like in nature-based carbon removal solutions, there's obviously like direct air carbon capture, and the problem with direct air carbon capture is it's very expensive today. I do believe like in 10 or 15 years, it'll come down the cost curve like, most things do. I mean, even electric vehicles like EV batteries I think they were 20,000 times more expensive about 25 years ago. And now that's almost on parity with, gas-based cars.
Right.
But yeah, so there's kind of like 3 or 4 primary carbon sinks on the planet. It's the ocean, it's land, and it's when I say land, I mean soil specifically, and it's trees, right? Those are so the ocean actually absorbs like 70% of CO2 on the planet, followed by soil, right? And that encompasses like most of surface area. And so the projects that you're actually buying into would be like regenerative agriculture, where a farmer is actually regenerating the land using basically what are timeless farming practices. Like they're rotating crops, for example, to reintroduce more carbon into the soil. And that's actually measured and verified. Like when you actually go to a farm, if you look at dirt, the darker the dirt is, that actually means there's more carbon in that dirt. So whenever you see dirt that's like light brown, it's actually not very carbon heavy. And I mean, Kaylee, like, like gardening, you want the soil to be dark because that actually enriches plants to grow. So this is like regenerative agriculture is one of the best things for our planet because it's sequestering more carbon and it actually grows healthier, stronger, faster crops. So yeah, we're working with people, farmers, for example, that are doing carbon soils, and then reforestation is a big one that we really like too. So those are kind of the projects that we like.
Right. And how does the Ecosapien, going back to the Ecoverse, how does it lead into just the full stack Web3 platform that you're building, which you say is designed to ultimately lower the barrier of entry for consumers to fight climate change? So what's that whole trajectory?
Yeah, so when you own the NFT, we're not guaranteed, it implies that you're part of our community. So there is like a token gated community piece to this. And that everyone that's in that community will have basically early access to betas and other things like that on our roadmap. But this really is intended, like it's actually intended to be both a Web3 and a Web2 platform. It's not all Web3 because our mission is really to take you and like the way you live life and reimagine the way you spend or the way you shop or the way you eat or what you wear in a sustainable way. And so part of what we are also interested in doing is introducing like net zero merchandising that's, high class and high fashion, for example. And that's not even Web3. That's not even internet, right? That's apparel.
Right.
But on the, on the Web3 side, we would think we can create a DAO. Once we have that community base up and running, we think we can create a philanthropic DAO, for example, which is, a Web3 product, obviously, where users can vote, for example, on a treasury, like I was saying, on where a philanthropic fund could go towards. And that's a way for people from their home, from their computer to actually take a more active role in doing things about climate change, but still from the comfort of their home by clicking buttons and voting on things. So, the roadmap specifically that we're thinking, and obviously this will change over time, as you can imagine, is the NFTs are wedged. We think this is a way of you have to buy this thing to be a part of the community. Anyone that's in that community will have early access to some of our future products, notably the philanthropic DAO fund that I was mentioning. The eco card that we're also starting to noodle on more, apparel, merchandising, etc., and obviously community events where we think once again we can, energize people to do good and have a good time. Like we a few months ago we put out a tweet that well, you know, our former intern, now full-time growth person, Nico, put out a tweet that was like, interact. Every interaction on this tweet will get 1 tree planted. And this tweet this tweet went bananas. Like, we ended up having to plant 20. We haven't done it yet, but we have to plant like 25 or not 20. We have to plant like 6,000 or 7,000 trees, which is ridiculous. And that's like, it actually ends up costing like $25,000. But one of the things we were thinking of, for example, was like, okay, well, we can plant these trees, but why not turn it into an event? Like, we could have a tree planting party in the Bay Area. There are plenty of regions where we could do this, and we could bring a DJ, for example, and make it a social event, right? A tree planting party. And that's like one of the ideas of do good for the world and have a good time yourself, right? And that's kind of our whole thesis, is like aligning incentives. Live the life you want, but where we can introduce the greener option in a better, faster, cheaper way using technology or even community, we're going to do it. That's what we're up to.
So true. I know aligning the incentives is key. And yeah, you're doing so much to make that a possibility. And it just seems like you've cracked the code in like establishing long-term consumer decarbonization by making the lower carbon option more attractive, quick ROI. You talked about the virtue signaling, and then obviously having it be kind of a lower cost. Would you say that blockchain and NFT technology is kind of the catalyst, or maybe the missing piece to creating this reality of kind of like consumer adoption for fighting climate change?
Yeah, I actually just published a big deep dive in Coin Central last week on my thesis on crypto meets climate. But at the fundamental level, climate change is a systems and coordination problem, because ask anyone if they care about the planet and if they want climate change to happen. They're going to say no. No one wants climate change to happen. Like,
right.
Not even oil and gas companies want to create pollution. No one wants to pollute the planet. But it's just not aligning. Like, we need energy, right? To heat our homes and fuel transportation and yada, yada, yada. Like, I live in San Francisco, and, I think I am a little bit more of an environmentally forward person, but I'm not going to go bike around town because it's super hilly. Like, I can't go. My house is on a slope that's like this, I'm not going to bike it.
Right.
So it's all about aligning incentives, right? And it's not that we're bad people. I think actually we're good people, but we need better tooling and better education to make the climate, the lower carbon option attainable. And that is the great promise of crypto, right? Is that you can apply tokenomics to making, making the climate forward option attractive, right? So you've got move to earn games like Sweatcoin, and there was one other really popular one, Steppen, right? Steppen, where, they would pay users essentially using their token to walk more. And for people, it's kind of like, oh, I'm just walking more, I'll get paid. That's the utility there. It's like, I get healthier and I get paid.
Right.
So you're going to walk more, right? That's the utility. It's not because you care about the environment. It's because you're healthier and you make money. Now, obviously, they have to figure out kind of like their money flow system, and people are skeptical of their business models and things like that. But in any new market, you have to have people that are just taking leaps and trying stuff. Like, I think there is a lot of criticism around move to earn, but my view on that is like, hey, they're experimenting. This is a whole new space.
Right.
I think there will be a few blockbuster companies at the intersection of crypto meets climate, because it's a very obvious one. People want to do better. And if you can use, economic incentives or community-based incentives to drive positive behavior change, I think it's really possible. And we have seen it, right? With a few companies. So I'm super, super bullish on that whole idea.
Yeah. Oh, I love it so much. And just kind of doubling down on this, like many people who are maybe new to crypto, new to NFTs and Web3, and also just viewing the metaverse from an outsider's perspective, they kind of see these technologies as perhaps maybe disconnecting us from one another and from nature and from the earth, or they've read headlines about like high energy usage. What would you say to these notions about Web3 crypto, blockchain, and why can blockchain technology be good for the planet ultimately?
Yeah, I've gotten this question so many times, and I think the reality is there's been a lot of misinformation about blockchain's environmental impact. I think in the sense that, sure, yes, Ethereum mainnet, back 2014 or 2015, whenever it was founded, was proof of work, and any kind of proof of work network is high energy usage. But the vast majority of them, the vast majority of new layers that have been introduced, like Celo, for example, or Return Protocol, Near Protocol, not Return, they're actually way more energy efficient than like the cloud, which is what, we're on Zoom right now. Zoom is sitting on the cloud. It's way more energy efficient than even like Amazon Web Services, right? And that is a little bit of misinformation, because I think the narrative was true. The blockchain was not necessarily the greenest option or the best energy use option 5 years ago, but it's changing dramatically.
Right.
And so that's one thing regarding blockchain in general. I think on the metaverse side, I think the story is that the real question is, what is a metaverse? Right? Like Zoom, you could argue, is a metaverse, right? We're kind of facing each other in this thing, but in this digital realm, right? And it's, higher fidelity. It's way better than Google Meet, in my opinion, and better than some of the options 10 years ago, right? Cameras have gotten really good. FaceTime is really good. I think I would argue that the metaverse, or one, you have to redefine what the metaverse is. That's one thing. And the second thing is, I actually think it has brought more of us together. Friends with Benefits is like the new kind of Soho House on the web, on Web3, right? And it's bringing together people that have, you wouldn't meet these people in person per se, because they don't necessarily, in a normal world, you meet people who are close to you from a point of proximity.
Right.
But, you're in Denver, I'm in San Francisco, and we're able to have this Zoom call. We could be in a Discord with somebody all the way in, in Seoul, in Korea, for example, and all around the world. And I think that's the great thing about the metaverse and Web3, is that it's truly global, and you're able to connect with people of shared values anywhere they are, and they don't have to be in your own proximity. I mean, for that matter, you could have friends in your own neighborhood, and you may not share the same value system with them, right?
Right.
So I actually think the metaverse is bringing more joy and more connection and more humanity. I actually believe that. When we think about the metaverse in terms of like putting on a VR headset and turning into an avatar and holograms, like how, Mark Zuckerberg envisions it, maybe, right? I think gaming will still be a first, application for that whole world. And he just had this great podcast with Joe Rogan, by the way, that came out recently. But I think gaming, and like gaming is really just a proxy, once again, for human connection at the end of the day. That can still happen. That's been happening, right? Like it's been happening on Xbox Live and PlayStation for 2 decades now. I don't think it's new. I don't know if I'm answering the question the best way, but I actually think the metaverse is better for the world. And in some ways it could be easier to advance, really impactful things for the planet. So I've got a friend that founded this company called the Purposeverse, and his thesis on this Purposeverse was like, imagine if you planted a tree in the game and that planted a tree in real life, right? And so for you, it's just playing a game and you're having fun, but it actually can have real world ramifications if the company itself does stuff on the back end, right, to make that happen. So in that way, it's like, play a game, but maybe you can make the world better. I think there's something there.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that was so beautifully said. Thank you so much. And before we go, when will the Ecosapiens launch? What's on the timeline for what's next for you guys? Whatever you can share as of now.
Yeah, so we, first year in the company, we raised, $1.5 million from tier 1 VCs a few months ago, actually. And we've been pretty quiet, trying to just, focus on the product and building up the community. But as of now, we're the fastest growing climate NFT community. We're actually the #1 climate NFT community by numbers. And we're just like now ready to start talking about it. And now is the time to get involved in our Discord, which is, you can find based on our Twitter or on our website, ecosapiens.xyz, and jump in there and just start participating. And we're building up the green list. And we have a lot of like well-known buyers that we will announce like over the next few months, notable people. And the actual drop will be in Q4 of this year, and we'll finalize a date soon. But the way to get in on all of those things is to connect with us on Twitter, and mostly the Discord. So that's the best place to start.
Perfect. I love it. Nihar, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. That was extremely insightful. I'm so excited for all things to come with Ecosapiens. And yeah, thank you for being on the Blockchain Hustler today.
Thanks, Kaylee.